Основные предлоги in, on, at.
In the box.
В коробке.
In the box.
In the box.
In the box.
On the table.
На столе.
On the table.
On the table.
On the table.
At the door.
У двери.
At the door.
At the door.
At the door.
In a car.
В машине.
In a car.
In a car.
In a car.
In the garden.
В саду.
In the garden.
In the garden.
In the garden.
On the floor.
На полу.
On the floor.
On the floor.
On the floor.
На кухне, где находятся предметы.
In the fridge.
В холодильнике.
In the fridge.
In the fridge.
In the fridge.
On the shelf.
На полке.
On the shelf.
On the shelf.
On the shelf.
In the cupboard.
В шкафу.
In the cupboard.
In the cupboard.
In the cupboard.
At the sink.
У раковины.
At the sink.
At the sink.
At the sink.
On the stove.
На плите.
On the stove.
On the stove.
On the stove.
In the oven.
В духовке.
In the oven.
In the oven.
In the oven.
On the counter.
На столешнице.
On the counter.
On the counter.
On the counter.
In a bowl.
В миске.
In a bowl.
In a bowl.
In a bowl.
В гостиной и спальне.
On the bed.
На кровати.
On the bed.
On the bed.
On the bed.
In the closet.
В шкафу.
In the closet.
In the closet.
In the closet.
On the wall.
На стене.
On the wall.
On the wall.
On the wall.
At the window.
У окна.
At the window.
At the window.
At the window.
In an armchair.
В кресле.
In an armchair.
In an armchair.
In an armchair.
On the sofa.
На диване.
On the sofa.
On the sofa.
On the sofa.
In a drawer.
В ящике.
In a drawer.
In a drawer.
In a drawer.
On the ceiling.
На потолке.
On the ceiling.
On the ceiling.
On the ceiling.
В городе, здание и место.
In the park.
В парке.
In the park.
In the park.
In the park.
In a cafe.
В кафе.
In a cafe.
In a cafe.
In a cafe.
In the library.
В библиотеке.
In the library.
In the library.
In the library.
In the museum.
В музее.
In the museum.
In the museum.
In the museum.
In a shop.
В магазине.
In a shop.
In a shop.
In a shop.
На улице и в транспорте.
On the street.
На улице.
On the street.
On the street.
On the street.
On a bicycle.
На велосипеде.
On a bicycle.
On a bicycle.
On a bicycle.
On a ship.
На корабле.
On a ship.
On a ship.
On a ship.
On the roof.
На крыше.
On the roof.
On the roof.
On the roof.
On the grass.
На траве.
On the grass.
On the grass.
On the grass.
On the path.
На тропинке.
On the path.
On the path.
On the path.
On the screen.
На экране.
On the screen.
On the screen.
On the screen.
Относительное положение. Рядом, между, напротив.
Next to the window.
Рядом с окном.
Next to the window.
Next to the window.
Next to the window.
Between the chairs.
Между стульями.
Between the chairs.
Between the chairs.
Between the chairs.
Opposite the bank.
Напротив банка.
Opposite the bank.
Opposite the bank.
Opposite the bank.
Next to the bed.
Рядом с кроватью.
Next to the bed.
Next to the bed.
Next to the bed.
Between two trees.
Между двумя деревьями.
Between two trees.
Between two trees.
Between two trees.
Opposite the hotel.
Напротив отеля.
Opposite the hotel.
Opposite the hotel.
Opposite the hotel.
Next to me.
Рядом со мной.
Next to me.
Next to me.
Next to me.
Among the flowers.
Среди цветов.
Among the flowers.
Among the flowers.
Among the flowers.
Near the fire.
Возле огня.
Near the fire.
Near the fire.
Near the fire.
Другие положения. Под, над, за, перед.
Under the table.
Под столом.
Under the table.
Under the table.
Under the table.
Behind the tree.
За деревом.
Behind the tree.
Behind the tree.
Behind the tree.
In front of the house.
Перед домом.
In front of the house.
In front of the house.
In front of the house.
Above the clouds.
Над облаками.
Above the clouds.
Above the clouds.
Above the clouds.
Below the surface.
Под поверхностью.
Below the surface.
Below the surface.
Below the surface.
Under the bed.
Под кроватью.
Under the bed.
Under the bed.
Under the bed.
Behind the curtain.
За занавеской.
Behind the curtain.
Behind the curtain.
Behind the curtain.
In front of me.
Передо мной.
In front of me.
In front of me.
In front of me.
Above my head.
Над головой.
Above my head.
Above my head.
Above my head.
Below zero.
Ниже нуля.
Below zero.
Below zero.
Below zero.
Over the bridge.
Через мост.
Over the bridge.
Over the bridge.
Over the bridge.
Смешанная практика и полезные фразы.
In the middle.
В середине.
In the middle.
In the middle.
In the middle.
Inside the building.
Внутри здания.
Inside the building.
Inside the building.
Inside the building.
Outside the cafe.
Снаружи кафе.
Outside the cafe.
Outside the cafe.
Outside the cafe.
On the map.
На карте.
On the map.
On the map.
On the map.
In a line.
В очереди.
In a line.
In a line.
In a line.